Greetings and welcome back to another wristwatch video on my channel, and today we're finally doing another wristwatch review of the legendary Seagull 1963 mechanical chronograph. So this lovely little watch has become very popular in the wristwatch community in the last like 5, 6, 7 years or so. So I wanted to share my opinion on this little timepiece. But before you switch perspectives, take a closer look at the watch. What am I wearing today? So wristwatch check. Today I'm wearing my Steinhardt GMT watch. I already made a review of this watch. If you're interested in that, link is in the description down below. So now let's switch perspectives, take a closer look at the Seagull, and then we'll come back here, talk about the pros and cons, and overall if I recommend you buying this watch. Okay, so let's first take a quick look at the packaging the watch came in. So my watch came in this green wooden box, which doesn't really have any details on any side except for the red star at the top. And when we open the box, we are greeted with the Seagull 1963 watch. So overall, not really much to the packaging, which is not necessarily a bad thing because the watch is what's the most important part. It's not the box. And now, here is the star of the show, the Seagull 1963, the sapphire crystal version. Let's start by talking about the dimensions of the watch, as we always do. So the diameter of the watch is 38 millimeters. The thickness of the watch is 12.7 millimeters. However, with the added NATO strap, it's closer to 15 millimeters on your wrist. The lug width is 18 millimeters, and the lug-to-lug distance is 47 millimeters. Overall, I think these dimensions are perfectly fine for this watch. Now, the case of the watch is made from 316L stainless steel, and the finishing on the case is fully polished, so we just have polishing on this case. There is no brushing, no sandblasting or anything like that. The crown is at the 3 o'clock position, and the crown is signed with this star logo. And in addition, we have two pushers, one at the top and one at the bottom, which are used to activate and stop and reset the chronograph functions. The crown of the watch is a push-pull crown, so you just pull out the crown in order to set the watch. When you're finished with setting the watch, you just click it back in. Because of this, you can already guess that the water resistance is pretty low, so this watch has a declared water resistance of 30 meters. What does that mean? It means you should run away from water, because if you put this watch in water, you're gonna have a really bad time. That's all regarding the case. Now let's take a closer look at the dial. And in my opinion, this watch has a gorgeous dial. So it's a champagne colored dial with golden applied hour markers, where the 12, 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10 hour markers are Arabic numerals. The 1, 5, 7, and 11 markers are reverse triangles, but we don't have really any hour markers on the 3 and 9 o'clock position. Also, we have a printed minute track around the dial. Below the 12 o'clock, we have a red star and 21 Zuan, which means 21 jewels in Chinese. And above the 6 o'clock position, we have some Chinese symbols, which mean made in China. And now, because this is a chronograph, we have some subdials on the watch. We have a subdial in the 3 o'clock position and a subdial at the 9 o'clock position. The one at the 3 o'clock position is the seconds hand of the watch, and the one on the 9 o'clock position is the seconds hand, and the one at the 3 o'clock position is the 30-minute chronograph counter. The hands of the watch are painted blue. They are not thermally blued because that is a more expensive process, and this watch wanted to maintain its low price point. So the hour, minute, and the subdial hands are all painted blue, but the chronograph hand is painted red. And that's it overall for the dial. Of course, these subdials are also printed like the minute track. They are not applied. So yeah, overall, it's a beautiful little dial. But what's protecting the dial is the other question. Like I said, this is a sapphire crystal on this watch. There's also a version with mineral crystal, but I chose the sapphire one because of the scratch resistance. And how will we know, in fact, that this is a sapphire crystal? Sorry. We will be using our diamond selector 2 tool. If there are yellow rectangles on this tool, then that indicates that this is in fact a sapphire crystal. Now, I made a whole video on how to check if your watch has sapphire crystal with and without tools. Link for that video is in the description down below. As well, if you want to purchase this Diamond Selector 2 tool, you can find an affiliate link in the description of this video. So if you buy it through my affiliate link, you will be helping out my channel. Now let's put it on the sapphire crystal. Is it sapphire? What does Diamond Selector 2 tool say? Yes, it is in fact sapphire. We have some yellow rectangles. So what does that mean? It means it's a lot more scratch proof than the mineral or the acrylic crystal version. Next thing we can notice here is that the seconds hand is doing a sweeping motion. It is not going tick tock, tick tock. So this indicates that this is in fact a mechanical movement, and this is a manual wind column wheel chronograph movement, the Seagull ST19 movement. So the Seagull ST19 is based on the Swiss Venus 175 movement. Essentially, Seagull bought the molds and machines necessary to make this movement in the 1960s. So in a way, you could say that this is in fact a Swiss movement you have in this watch. The movement has 21 joules. It has 45 hours of power reserve, and it beats at 21,600 beats per hour. Like I said, this is a column wheel movement. In addition, we have some decoration on the movement. We have some Cote de Genève. We have blued screws, but they are again painted blue. They are not thermally blued, and we have a swan neck regulator at the balance wheel. Now, additional details on the case back. We have some Chinese symbols, and I'm not even sure I'm pointing the right way. Maybe it's this way, which means made in Tianjin, China. We also have 1963 on it and some stars as well. So I think the case back is definitely a big plus for this movement. The display case back, it's better than the original version, which had the solid case back, because the ST19 movement looks very, very nice in my opinion. Okay, so like I said, this is a chronograph movement. So let me show you how the chronograph works, how to operate it. So when you press the top pusher, you activate the chronograph. You can stop the chronograph, and then you can activate it again if you need to. So let's click the pusher. And now, as you can see, the red chrono seconds hand has started moving. When the chrono seconds hand makes a full turn around the dial, then the 3 o'clock subdial will move by one marker, indicating that what minute has passed. And we can measure up to 30 minutes here. Now let's speed up the footage just to show you how it looks when 1 minute passes. Okay, so now let's pay close attention to the 3 o'clock subdial. And 1 minute has passed. And essentially it will move like that for the whole 30 minutes. And now we can stop the chronograph with the top pusher again. If we want, we can just activate it again if we need to, but we stop it. Then you click the bottom pusher to reset the chronograph. So it's a flyback chronograph, which means when you press the bottom pusher, boop, it just pops right back into place and doesn't go like full circle to go back into the starting position. Overall, the clicks are very firm. They are very, you can feel them easily. There's no dust, there's no grainy feeling when you press or use the pushers. Overall, it's a big thumbs up from me. And I think we've covered everything regarding the watch. Let's just talk quickly about the strap the watch comes in. So by default, it comes in this olive NATO strap. It's not the best NATO strap, I gotta say. It just has a normal buckle. So it's not the best NATO strap ever. I would suggest you swap it for a better quality one, or maybe put it on a leather strap because of the thickness of the watch. But I mean, I guess it's okay for the price. The last thing I should show you is how to set the watch. So you just pull the crown out to the first and only position, and then you can set the watch. And of course, when you're done setting your watch, you just click it back in, and that's it. Finally, let me just show you how it looks on my wrist. So my wrist is 6 3/4 inches, which is why I bought the 38mm version and not any bigger version, because I think any other version would look way too big on my little wrists. And yes, this is how the watch in fact looks. I think it looks gorgeous. It looks even better on a brown leather strap, which I have for this watch. I got it when I purchased it from Point24. And yes, that's pretty much it. So now let's go back to our original perspective, talk about the positives and negatives of this watch, and overall if I recommend you buying it. Alright, and we're back. So that was the Seagull 1963 close-up. So now before we go to the pros and cons section of this video, I just wanted to briefly cover a topic which might pop up in the comments of this review. Is this watch indeed an original Seagull 1963? No, it's not. Why? So, in 2013, Seagull did a re-release to mark the 50th anniversary of the original Seagull being released to the Chinese Air Force, and that version was 38mm diameter. It had an acrylic crystal and a solid caseback. However, in the meantime, a lot of Chinese watch factories started buying the Seagull ST19 movement and making their own versions of this watch. So for example, like mine, it has a sapphire crystal and a display caseback. You can also find versions in 40 and 42mm. You can also find versions with different dial colors. So those are all not original Seagull 1963 watches. The only original you can buy is from the Seagull official AliExpress store, and there it costs like $600 or $700. I bought mine on a different website, but we'll talk about it a little bit later. Now let's talk about the pros and cons of this watch. So the first pro I would have to list for this watch is the very brand Seagull. So Seagull is a brand that has existed for over 70 years at this point. It has a lot of watchmaking history behind it. It's also one of the, if not the largest producer of mechanical movements in the world, and they have some very impressive movements in their repertoire. For example, they make their own tourbillon movements, which is very impressive for any brand to master, especially from a Chinese brand. You wouldn't really expect a Chinese brand to master making tourbillon movements, but they do, so brand is a big plus for me. Next positive would be the dial design. Overall, the dial is very, very beautiful on this watch. The mix of the gold markers, the blue hands, the red seconds hand, the chrono seconds hand, I mean, on the champagne dial. Well, it doesn't sound as good when you see it in real life. I think you would just fall in love with this little watch. The beautiful dial is definitely a plus for me. Next is the sapphire crystal. If you've been following me for any amount of time, you would know that sapphire crystal is always a positive in my watch reviews because I just prefer the scratch resistance of the sapphire crystal. I have worn this watch when I would go outside to exercise, before I stopped exercising, unfortunately, and I have never had a single scratch on this timepiece. It's very durable, and I used to take this watch running, doing pull-ups, doing push-ups, and I never had any issues with it. Next plus is the size. So the 38mm diameter is for me a big plus because I simply prefer smaller sized watches because I don't really have a big wrist, so 38mm looks very good on me. In addition, another pro would be the actual customizability of the watch. So even if you don't like 38mm watches, you could also buy it in 40 or 42mm diameter. You can buy it with a mineral or a sapphire crystal, with a display caseback, or with a solid caseback, or in different dial colorways. So overall, I think there is a Seagull 1963 for literally everybody here, for everybody's taste. Next is the reliable movement. Now this is more of a plus for my particular Seagull. So this movement has been very reliable over the years. It gains plus 12 seconds a day, which is not that much, especially considering I have this watch has fallen over tables a couple of times now. It's fallen to the floor. It has not stopped. I haven't had any issues with it, so it works overall. I think the movement, at least in my watch, is a plus. And as well, the final pro for me would be that it is very respected in the wristwatch community. So unlike other AliExpress brands like Pagani Design or San Martin, everybody who knows anything about watches respect the Seagull brand, especially the Seagull 1963. For example, one of the channels, Bear Clooney, the man has a lot of Rolexes, Cartier watches, Omegas, but he also has a Seagull 1963 in his collection, which just shows how much people actually like this little timepiece. So it is definitely a pro. And those are all the pros for me. But now, as every watch, there are some cons to be listed as well. The first con for me is the thickness. Now, the watch itself is not too thick considering it's a chronograph watch, but with the added thickness of the NATO strap, it goes over 15mm, which is a bit too much. So if you don't like very thick watches, I would suggest you not put this on a NATO strap, but maybe you could put it on a leather strap instead, so then it would be just like 13mm thick, which would not be as bad. Next is that it won't be easy to service or repair this movement. So please keep in mind this is a complicated movement. Chronographs are one of the most complicated movements to service, especially if it's from a Chinese brand. So I like a Value 7750. A lot of watchmakers are not really trained to service this watch or have any spare parts for this movement, so that would be a huge negative. So even though my movement is reliable, maybe yours it will not be as reliable. And also keep in mind, because this is very hard to repair, there's a high chance that this watch will just stop after 10-15 years and that you would simply not be able to repair it and you can just throw it in the garbage. So please be aware when buying this. This might not be a watch that will last you for a lifetime. Even though it is a mechanical watch, if you're not living in China particularly, it might be difficult for you to service this and to keep it in a good shape. But those are the pros and cons I listed. Overall, I think this is a gorgeous watch. I recommend you buying this watch. I think it gives a lot for the money. And even though it might not last you for a lifetime, I think it's still worth it for a first mechanical chronograph. I mean, you get a column wheel mechanical chronograph for just $350. Now, one of the important topics I would like to discuss as well is where to buy this watch. So you can find this watch easily on AliExpress, and you can find it for a cheaper price than what I paid for my watch. However, keep in mind that these are not made by Seagull, as we said before the pro section. And they do not have the best quality control available. For this reason, I have seen a lot of people complain that, for example, their chrono seconds hand literally falls off or that it becomes stuck after like a month of usage. I recommend you buy this watch from websites that give a guarantee. For example, I bought my watch on Pollet24 website and they give 2 years guarantee for this watch. Or maybe if you're in North America, you should buy it from Long Island Watches. Don't buy it off AliExpress because I think that there's a higher chance for you to get a faulty one, and you don't really need to waste your money if you don't have to. Of course, you can buy it from the official Seagull watch store, but that will cost you a lot more than what you can find on Long Island Watches or Pollet24. But yes, I really do love this watch. I've had it for 2 years now. I have had no issues with it whatsoever, and it's been through a lot, trust me. So this is a big thumbs up for me. I love this watch. So that's it for this review. Give me your impressions of this watch in the comments below. If you ever had the Seagull 1963, do you still have it, or did it simply stop working after a while? If it did, do you know why? And of course, as always, if you like this video, leave a thumbs up. If you disliked the video, maybe leave a thumbs down and give me some suggestions on how I can improve my content. Subscribe if you want to see more wristwatch or fragrance related videos. And until next time, have a great day and